Hey everybody, it is Coach Dana Inspires.com, and we are here with business inspiration. We come to you every single Tuesday at this time to inspire you to do more through this fabulous time of COVID. Today we have a great guest, and it is Bill Brown with Bill Brown Speaking Coach. I'm so sorry, Bill. Anyway, here we are. We're going to learn great ideas about how you can become a better presenter, make those presentations really rock. And so, Bill Brown, we are happy you're here today. Tell us, how are you? What's going on?
We're doing fine. My wife and I are doing fine. We, as you're well aware, had a little experience with COVID ourselves last month. We are fully back in the swing of things and fully healthy and rocking and rolling for 2021.
Excited to hear that you're both well. That is scary. That diagnosis is always a little like so glad you're doing well. Super news. So you've been doing this coaching for a while. You know what you're up to. You know what your clients are doing. So what have you done, and what do you see your clients doing now that we're 10 months into this? We've been locked down, we haven't, then we're locked, and now we haven't, and now it's 2021. What do you see happening in the business climate that you work in?
Fantastic. First of all, let me describe to you a little bit of my experience in 2021 and the evolution or development or whatever you want to call it that I went through at that point in time. A year ago, my primary focus was on in-person coaching of people doing presentations, primarily in the speech delivery area. That has some limitations because they have to be close to you. It's one-on-one. It takes time. I found that was not as productive as it could have been. At the same time, I have for a number of years had a monthly column in an international magazine, and I'm getting from time to time inquiries from people all over the world. And I said, wait a minute, I wish I had products that I could sell them and just boom, it's immediate. They download, I get the money, it's done once. And rather than that, so I decided that I was going to shift from doing the in-person to the product. And that takes a certain amount of time to take what I would normally do custom as we went to systematizing it. That was a decision I made to basically slow down a little bit. And again, my sales last year, by the way, were flat, mainly because of this and the fact that enter COVID. But COVID had an interesting effect on my business model. All of a sudden, Zoom became ubiquitous. Everybody's comfortable with Zoom. Maybe not everybody, but a whole gazillion of people are, so that now it's an acceptable business tool, even for coaching, etc. So that I decided, okay, I'm going to move in that direction as well and incorporate that. That then opens up another possibility. I could live wherever I wanted to. I didn't need to be in a big city. My wife and I were getting tired of big cities that were getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We decided to move to someplace a little bit smaller. That involved researching areas. Once you decide on one, looking for a house, selling your old house, packing, moving, yada, yada, yada. But we ended up moving from a city of several million people to a city of 32,000, pretty much out in the middle of nowhere. And so, but we're enjoying it. At the end of November, we were pretty much all of that was behind us, ready to roll. Then you've got the holidays, and that was the time when COVID season hit for us. So that again took me out of pocket for about 10 days. But as I said earlier, that is all taken care of. Now, the question is, what do I see out there and what's happening in the business world? As far as how the business future is for folks out there, it really all depends. I mean, as you said, are we locked down? Are we not? Yada, yada. A lot of that has to do with your location, especially if you're in an area that is prone to lockdowns for whatever reason. And that can certainly, if in fact you are limited to, like I was going directly to somebody, directly one-on-one in a limited service area, yeah, that can definitely limit your business. If in fact you've got flexibility, where whether you automatically are doing online or can adjust to doing online or some other mechanism, maybe an alternate delivery method. I know that when my wife and I had COVID, we would call our local grocery store and they would deliver. Fantastic. They still got the business. We still got to eat. That's a good thing. And again, a lot of it is your service area. How wide, farly field can you? I was limited to that which was happening in Las Vegas. Now I'm limited to anywhere in the world, basically, that can access the internet. Now, there's another aspect too that I think is a factor of how well the business is going, and that's the attitude of your client base. COVID has created a certain fear factor. And originally, last March, April, May, we were all kind of like, oh, I don't want to get it. As time has gone by, we found that most of us don't have a bad case. And certain other areas have loosened up here. And, here where I live, basically it's wide open. If you're living in, say, Southern California, there might be some other issues. And I've talked to some friends who live in California, and they're a little bit more afraid of COVID than they are here. And I live in Wyoming now. But so that the key then is that where your client base, what are their concerns about that? Find those that are not as afraid of it. And my sense is that more and more people are getting tired of the lockdowns and everything. They're starting to step out, whether the government likes it or not, and sometimes in defiance. So it's all a matter of finding the folks that are either in action or ready to get into action. It may take a little bit of marketing, a little bit of creativity, but that's where you're at. Now, I think that there's another factor that may come into play. And on the 20th, we have a new administration coming in. Not sure what they're going to do. You hear a lot of talk during campaigns that never come. But again, that could be a factor that comes in after the fact. But basically, to sum it up, things are opening up in my estimation, and it's up to you to take advantage of where the opportunities are.
Absolutely. And so as an entrepreneur, business owners, our viewers are sitting there going, okay, great. So let's take those opportunities. Is there something tangible that we can do right now that you can just suggest? One
Sure.
Giant step for us.
Yeah, I think there are a number of different things that you can do. First of all, if you are able to move forward, find the people that are not letting COVID slow them down. That's obvious. Another one, as we talked about, finding alternate delivery methods to keep some sort of cash flow if in fact you are restricted. Again, that's pretty obvious. But if you're not able to move forward for whatever reason, or even if you are but at a slower pace, you can do what I did. Take the time to improve. That can be personal development. That can work on some skills, perhaps presentation skills, whatever. Work on your motivation, something along those lines. Skill that that take time to develop that you normally wouldn't because you're busy. You may have the time to do that. Also, you could work on your sales pitch. Make it more effective. Make your business presentation. Work on promotion. I need to be doing more in the area of YouTube videos and promotion and blogs. That's part of where, with a slower economy, I have more time to do that. Either that or no longer have an excuse not to.
Yeah.
and also, you basically, it may be a matter of review your strategy. Is it time to refocus? Is it time to relocate? That's what I did. Those are some of the ideas that you can be doing. So look at what needs to happen, what flexibility you have, go make it happen.
All right. Super. Wow. Great advice. Great advice. And your focus is constructing an effective business presentation that
Correct.
I think any of us who are in business, whether you're speaking to 5, whether you're speaking to 500 or 5,000, wouldn't that be great? We need to have a great presentation. So can you identify 3 key qualities that really make a great presentation? Well, you got three? I'm sure you have more, but give me three.
I would be happy to. First of all, a good presentation needs to be targeted. Too many times I've heard presentations that were like data dumps, just they're all over the place, and you sit there and go, where is this going? It needs to be targeted. What do I mean by that? First question you need to ask is, what do you want your audience to think, feel, and or do when you're done? After all, you're not doing this for fun. You're doing it to create an effect. What is that effect? Second of all, then, you need to come up with, define your purpose. What is a purpose statement? What are you doing? Let me give you an example. I'm big on examples. I recently put together a presentation on putting together a good speech. And my purpose was as follows. And you can see it's multiple. Inform or educate the attendees on effective presentation, construction, and delivery techniques. Inspire the attendees to want to become better presenters. Make the presentation entertaining enough that the attendees enjoy and remember the material. And then next you come up with is a thesis statement. Tell me what you're going to say in one sentence. If you can't say it in one sentence, you don't know what you're going to say. For that presentation that I was going to do, my thesis statement was, every business presenter can design, construct, and deliver effective presentations by following 3 simple steps. That was it. Then the entire presentation was defining the 3 steps and then discussing it.
Wow. That's fabulous.
Second of all, if I may, is that second, what you want to do is have it well organized. First of all, if you've got some old slides in a presentation, ignore the slide deck. I've seen so many presentations where somebody went back to another presentation that had totally different purpose, totally different thesis, but they grab the slides, throw it together, we're there, rock and roll. Then put together, I'm big on 3 points. We tend to think in terms of 3s as humans, and put everything together under that. If it's an informational speech where you have a number of points, you can group them. What did I do with the previous segment? Target. What did I talk about? Think, feel, do, purpose, thesis statement. But again, you're thinking target. That's the key. Now, then, if effectively supports your points, especially if it's persuasive, you might want to use a story, testimonial, statistics, a graph. There are a number of different ways. Keep in mind, though, that sometimes you're selling to a variety of different people, and you need to address the various stakeholders. Let's say you're making a presentation to a CEO, CFO, and director of operations. The CEO might appreciate the brevity of a testimonial. The CFO probably would like to see some graphs and statistics. The operations director would love to hear a story about somebody similar in a similar business that used your services with incredible results as far as efficiency. Finally, I would say you need to have an effective opening. Recognize when people show up at your presentation, they've got other things going on. They're thinking, I got an in-basket that's 3 inches high. I need to get back to that. You need to bring them from the outside world to your world. The way you do that is an effective opening. Let me give you 3 quick suggestions. My favorite, ask a question. I'm sensitive to the COVID world, so if I were doing a speech on COVID, I would start out with, out of the 85 million COVID cases worldwide, how many confirmed cases are there of someone getting it a second time? 35. Okay, now that might get somebody's attention. All of a sudden, you've got them taking action. You're telling them, think about this. You can give them a task. One of my segments, I say, think about the moment. Think for a moment about the most boring speaker that you have ever heard. I now have them focused on that, on my speech. Or a third one might be starting off with a bold statement. I believe that the seeds of ineffective speech delivery were planted back in the 1st grade. Okay, well, gee, what the heck? What's this all about? Again, get them off of their in-basket. Then finally, deliver it. Step number 3, deliver it well. Delivery is a major aspect in the effectiveness of your speech, and it can really set you apart from the other speakers.
Well, great advice. Great advice. And I think it's so true. Some people end up in your presentations. They're forced to be there. Their manager, their boss, whoever it was, said, "You need to be there," and they really don't want to be there. They're the ones sitting there with their arms across their chest going,
Yep.
and if you could get them, uh, uh, and these tips would certainly help with that. That's super great. So, so first off, why is delivery so important? Why is that just because you want to show off, or is there some other reason for us to really want to be a great presenter?
As I see it, there are three key reasons. Oh my gosh, there's that magic number 3 again. Whoa! At any rate, first of all, it makes you more interesting to listen to. A moment ago, I asked you to think of the most boring presenter you've ever heard. For me, that was an engineering professor, Professor Anderson. Professor Anderson talked like this. That was not an exaggeration. That is what he sounded like. Now, what was I doing during those classes? Looking at my watch, thinking, I hope 20 minutes have gone by. 2 to 3, if I was lucky. Long sessions, not sure how much I learned in there. So it's a major example or an extreme example, but a lot of the speeches, most of the speakers are what I consider they're functional. They get the job done, but they're there, they sound like everybody else, blah, blah, blah. The truly effective ones are the ones that have learned how to speak in what I call the hot zone. We can maybe mention that a little bit later. Second reason why speech delivery is so important is that it communicates your emotion to the listener. David Hoffeld, who wrote the book The Science of Selling, actually goes so far as to say it transfers your emotion to your listener. Now, so within that, I mean, Dana's a motivational speaker. You listen to her, she's got plenty of energy, excitement. When you listen to her, don't you become excited as well? I hope so, but I do. But that's kind of that where you're transferring that, you're getting them with you. Now, that same is true with, say, joy, anger, your passion, for the topic, your confidence. Those are all emotions that you can convey to them. And that's important in persuasion, motivation, inspiration, even in informational speeches. You want people to be interested in what you're saying rather than just sounding like blah, blah, blah. The final reason why speech delivery is so important is that it can magnify the meaning and significance of what you are saying because it makes them stronger. You're pointing to what the important point is. Let me give an example that has nothing to do with speaking. I've listened to a lot of baseball games in my day. Let's say, just a scenario, the score is 4-1. The team that has 1 run scores 2. So great, they now scores another one, they now have 2. And what does the announcer all too often say? And now the score is 4-2. Huh? Okay, he's reporting it. But the salient point is that it's now 4-2. And 2, by you telling me that, you're telling me the game's getting closer. You want to pay attention. Don't touch that dial. Okay, that's what you're looking at. So those are, I think, the 3 key reasons why speech delivery is so important.
Wow. Yeah. And I think and you make it interesting. You make it like I want to do these things. So my presentations are more interesting. So let's get to it. I love it. And so we're going to stick with the 3s. You are clearly a 3 kind of dude, and I like that. So can you give us three tips that's really going to help our listeners improve their presentation delivery? You got 3? I know you do.
I know. I can guarantee I probably have more than that, but we're going to keep it at 3. First of all, give yourself permission to be expressive. Now, what do I mean by that? Expressiveness is, in my opinion, the key to an effective presentation delivery. It is the life that you breathe into what you say and do on stage. It is the passion that you have for your topic and your message. Let that show. Now, the key is that we all have a mental limit on how expressive we're going to allow ourselves to be. And I call that the expressiveness barrier. Imagine there's a continuum. 0 on one side is your monotone. The other side is someone who's like way over the top. Think Richard Simmons sweating with the oldies. And yeah, and everybody places themselves somewhere on that scale. The expressiveness barrier is at a 5. Most people perform in the 3 to 5 range. I call that the safe zone because, okay, no one's going to think I'm weird and I'm fitting in, peer pressure, basically. Now, the really effective speech is what I call the hot zone, is from 5 to 7. And you need to find a way to move into that zone. Now, you might say, look, I'm comfortable with a 5. What I learned when I did voiceovers is that people, your listeners, perceive you to be less expressive than you think you are. If you're speaking at a 5, they're hearing you as a 3. And that's kind of too close to the boring side. So if you want to be perceived as a 5, speak as a 7, and they will perceive you as such. Second point is to, and this is something I've heard a lot of speakers do. They tend to talk real fast, as fast as they can. For some reason, they think it's great business, you know. At any rate, no, slow down and let your words work for you. There's an aspect in spoken word communication where you've got, it's called duration. Let me give you an example. You're in a group of some of your closest friends. One of them says something to them that they think is incredibly insightful, but the rest of you realize it's pretty, intuitively obvious. Invariably, one of you is going to stand up and say, duh, there was a lot of communication in there, wasn't there? What if I just said, duh? Same word, but there was a lot more meaning in the first version because you were communicating the emotion. Again, there's that emotion. Have you ever heard the deal that you need to get in touch with someone's emotion in order to sell them? This is probably the key way that you do that. And the more you speak quickly, the more you're squeezing the words, the more you're squeezing out the duration, the emotion, and the persuasion, inspiration, and motivation that you may be looking for. So you don't want to do that. Very quickly, a third way is to learn the basics of effective emphasis. That's basically done through what's called vocal variety. I've identified 9 dimensions of vocal variety. 7 of them pertain to the business presentation. We're talking about volume. We're talking about pitch. We're talking about pace. We're talking about pause. We're talking about emotion, the whole spectrum of emotion. There could be energy. We talked about that with Dana. And there could be intensity. A lot of different techniques that you can combine together to really effectively deliver your speech and transfer that emotion to your listener. Dana, those are my 3 points, and I'll turn it back to you.
I just love it. That is great information. And I know our listeners have just eaten this up. Good grief. And you can replay it as often as you want. That's for sure, if you've missed any of these things. So Bill, my brain is exploding. I have notes a go-go here on my piece of paper, and I really appreciate this. We've got to wrap it up. We are cruising towards the end. Do you have just one little teeny weeny nugget to toss out to us, or do you want to emphasize something that you've already said?
What I'm going to tell you is it's something that I've already said, but if you could ignore everything else, but there's one thing, there's one tip will make a difference in your speech. It is give yourself permission to be expressive.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This has been so great. So much great information. I love it. Thank you, Bill. This has been fabulous. And so folks, if you are interested in finding out more about Bill and what he can do for you and how he can give you information, maybe you want to talk to him about some of these points, this is how you get a hold of Bill Brown. It is billbrownspeechcoach.com or bill@billbrownspeechcoach.com. Here's his happy number. Please feel free. Give him a call, give him an email, give him a shout out. Ask him any questions. He's more than happy to talk to you, give you some tips. And if I can be of any service to you, there's my contact information down there, CoachDanaInspires.com. You can get a hold of me there. And I would love to hear from you and hear how some of this has been effective for you. So Bill, thank you again. Thanks for being here. And everybody else, we'll see you next Tuesday. Business Inspiration at the same time. Have a great day, everybody.